thanks to all the witnesses for being here today, and I also want to welcome everybody in the gallery. Today marks International Day for Persons with Disabilities, which aims to promote an understanding of disability issues and support the dignity, rights and well-being of disabled people. So it's very timely, I think, that we're discussing inclusive participation in public and political life today, because so many of the issues that we look at related to disabled people being excluded from decision-making processes. Several articles of the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities guarantee the right to participate in political life and for agency over their own lives. But unfortunately, at the moment, the government's simultaneously pushing through the Assisted Decision-Making Amendment Act, which will see disabled people and many older people have their capacity under even greater scrutiny, as demonstrated by the use of the functional test of mental capacity, which is contrary to the rights on the Convention of People with Disabilities. So I just want to thank the witnesses again for the points you've raised and, highlighting the obstacles and all of those things. And I'd just like you to elaborate maybe on some of them. And if there isn't time to answer all the questions, where possible, replies sent in afterwards would be great. So the right to vote is something that we obviously all take for granted. And especially being able to access polling stations. Your statements, I think, have reminded all of us this is often not the case for disabled people, that right isn't just there available. And Annette, you outlined the multiple barriers that people face, and you highlight the importance of accessible voting checklists from 2015 from the NDA. We've had several elections and referendums since it was published. So could you outline your impressions of levels of compliance with the checklist? And Pat, you suggested mechanisms and technical aids that can be put in place in other jurisdictions. And I'm wondering, how did they come about and what could we learn from them? Do we need to put accessible measures on a statutory footing, because it seems like the current system isn't working properly and perhaps the law needs to spell out what the right to vote means in practice? We know that there is significant underrepresentation of disabled people in decision-making processes, not only in terms of public representatives, but also in senior and managerial levels in state bodies and in private companies. Article 4 of the Convention requires the state to closely consult with and actively involve disabled people in development and implementation of legislation and policies. And we know that the state is failing to meet that obligation. But could you give a sense of the mechanism or approaches that would be useful to achieve this? So how can and should the state be engaged more with DPOs and with disabled people? Disability Stakeholder Group, in your opening statement you mentioned the need for a fund to level the playing field for people to engage in political campaigns where they face additional impairment-related costs. Could you just maybe elaborate, any of the witnesses, on the real importance of that? And you also called for disabled people to be able to access additional personal assistance support where necessary to support their involvement in politics. And for this committee, the importance of PAs is a matter that is continuously raised by so many different witnesses before the committee. So I'm just wondering if you could highlight why that support would be important in terms of political engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Holly. We'll start with Pat first, and then John, and then we'll start with Kieran the next time.
I'll try and be as brief as possible, but if I may go back to what Eileen Flynn was asking about, there are training modules there that would encourage people with disabilities to get involved in the political and public life. There is one particular one that was championed by Down Syndrome Ireland, My Opinion, My Vote. That training module is still available. It was EU funded. It's still available and through Down Syndrome Ireland's website. I'm sure you all know, but there is a person with Down syndrome on the Executive Committee of Fianna Fáil, who was recently elected, a young man who came through that My Opinion, My Vote programme. And to deal with the other issues around it, EDF will sort of keep fighting at an EU level, and the new EU electoral law was heavily influenced by the European Disability Forum, but now it needs to get that law transferred and transposed into and acted upon within the Irish concept. How did change come about? Basically because DPOs, disabled people's organisations in all of those national countries fought and fought and fought to get the law changed. There are some very good examples in Germany and in Spain. in the run-up to the last European elections, over 80,000 people with disabilities, intellectual disabilities, were given the right to vote, re-granted it, if you like, or given back to them. But over the whole of Europe, there is a utopia. It is there, but not every country is doing it all at the one time. Ireland fares better than most, but it's not perfect. The same goes for Spain, France, Germany, Belgium. Belgium wouldn't be great now at all. But that's where it's at. So if we could just collect all the good things that are done in all of the countries and put them into one big package that would be universal across Europe, I think our problem would be solved, but that's going to take some time.
Holly had a specific question for Annette, so maybe Annette first and then on to John. Annette?
Yes, in relation to Holly's first question, in relation to the NDA checklist, when the DSG met with the department and representatives from the franchise unit, we were informed that the department sends the NDA checklist to their returning officers in advance of each election, and they rely on the returning officers feeding it among their staff. But we have no information as to whether the checklists are compiled at each polling station and the results of the findings fed back to the department. So maybe if this committee are meeting with the franchise department, it is something they could raise, because there's no point having a checklist if it isn't used.
Okay. John?
Margaret Cahill, just very, very briefly, and Deputy Kearns, putting supports on a statutory footing, I think that's what needs to be done. Yeah. And we've had all the rhetoric in the National Disability Inclusion Strategy and whatever, and so that needs to be backed up, because it's not happening any other way. And that was the import of some of the comments I made earlier. Specific impairments, or sorry, specific costs that people have who are disabled, not being comprehensive, but personal assistance is one of the things. Transport, mobility, subsistence costs if people are away and travelling, and this, that and the other. Communication, they're just some of the, people might think of other ones, but I think they're certainly critical modules of cost that people have in relation to public participation.
So then just presumably the difference between having PA hours and not having PA hours is the difference in being able to participate in public and political life and not being able to participate, just for clarity for the committee.
Or it might be that plus transport, or it might be more transport for somebody else, you know what I mean? But these are, absolutely, they are game stoppers, participation stoppers,
Tom